Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of SaaS Crunch. Today we're going to be looking through a couple more software companies or software as a service companies found on Crunchbase and doing a little bit of digging to what they're doing well in marketing across paid channels as well as organic, and just really going to see where all this funding is going and what types of activities are leading to this hyperscale growth. So if we look at my screen, I've gone into Crunchbase and I've just set it as software as a service and United Kingdom, just because that's where we're based. Obviously it's SaaS Crunch, so we're looking at software companies. And one immediately met my eye, a company I see quite a lot around LinkedIn, is Cognizam. Now, for those of you who don't know Cognizam, they're a round C funded company, and they're kind of taking on the likes of ZoomInfo. We're looking to use marketing data in order to be able to hit your ideal B2B audience. And you can see around here, it's about $126 million worth of funding so far, according to Crunchbase, around 101 to 250 people. And that's pretty much all we need to know, really. So what has led them to grow? And obviously there's lots of different factors, and today I'm just going to try and break down some of the few key elements which I think they're doing really well. So they're doing a lot of things well, but just wanted to sort of dig in a little bit deeper. So let's first of all jump over to their site. I'll come back to this and look at it from an SEO perspective in a bit, but let's quickly go onto their LinkedIn. So yeah, around 291 people, so probably grown since it's last updated on Crunchbase. Ranked one of the top LinkedIn startups, or LinkedIn top startups. And let's quickly jump over to the ads, because I care more about their ads than their organic. So if you want to go into posts and go into ads, you can see anyone's ads on LinkedIn. So the thing I like about Cognizam, and I think is really true for a lot of growing software companies at the moment, is they focus more on the delivery of ongoing content rather than production value. They care more about sharing information and amplifying a core message than they do about spending months and months on a key video just to then not post again, or just amplify that one message millions of times to the same audience. And that's from a full funnel approach. So you can see here they have everything from sort of cold sales scripts for download, which is ultimately going to be, I imagine, going to the email strategy, which I won't go too much into. But the stuff I really like is around them taking what they've done with their podcasts and taking out the most important snippets. And these snippets really align to what the target audience are interested in, and then ultimately the pain point which they plug with their SaaS product. And they do it across the board, and all different variations and a lot of testing. The dark funnel content cheat sheet, some quirky little meme sort of stuff here, some really nice sort of pullouts from videos they've done. So as you can see, they've got such a variety of content, sort of all the way from awareness and people that haven't heard about them before, all the way through down to sort of direct lead capture bits. Nice carousels here, really clear messaging across the board. I can sort of go down all day. The bits I really like are the podcast bits that fit natively within the channel, just because they're answering real problems, positioning themselves in authority, and also discussing things that their software can plug gaps in the market. Lead gen versus demand gen, thought leadership content within that thing. And again, here come some of the videos which we see quite a lot that people are trying to advertise what they do directly. So it's all good here. Some stuff from industry leaders, everything from blogs, whatever it may be. So quite like this. You used to be able to go in and see exactly how many likes and everything each one got, but you can't anymore because they blocked that, which is no problem. But it's quite nice, and a lot of this stuff is driving people straight to their website, which is quite cool, just because people will go there. They're not gating a lot. They can actually go and read a bit of information and cookie their browser. I mean, that's not going to work forever, but at the moment, remarketing is still pretty strong. And talking of which, let's go straight into Facebook for Cognizam. And again, on Facebook, if you want to go down to the page transparency and click on, go to ad library, you can see all the ads here. And again, what I like about these guys in Cognizam, especially from their branding team, is they're very creative on the ad side, and the fact that They don't just promote single image ads or just carousels or just videos or just assets. They do the lot, and they make sure, I imagine, their frequency is well below 3, or probably around 3, I imagine 3 to 5, maybe some slightly higher on some slightly more informative bits of content lower down the funnel, bits of content lower down the funnel, which they're trying to get people to potentially learn a bit more about, like how that platform works, for example. But again, it's a very similar approach to LinkedIn, and these guys obviously got their data and seen that, however they can reach them, whether it's first touch point on LinkedIn and then looking at remarketing. They do a lot of remarketing on Facebook. I imagine they do a lot of lookalike audiences to really sort of amplify it. But the coolest thing is they're practicing what they're preaching, the fact that they've got all this data, they know who the target audience market is, and they're using the likes of LinkedIn and Facebook to really go after this audience and educate them. They're not going straight for one-click convert. They're going for using platforms to saturate the market in information that they're trying to get people to consume, and probably optimizing around that. And just, everything from screen share walkthroughs. One of the bits I really like as well is, if I go over here, I got this remarketing earlier, which was someone actually using a product-led first approach to an asset, which is much better than just, say, for example, an ebook, where you go here and it's get your 25 leads based on your ideal customer profile. And it's just about you dipping your toe in to seeing what their platform can do, and you'll probably see the first 25 leads be, okay, these are exactly on point with our profile. That's kind of reduced the friction for me to get in contact. So how can you reduce the friction for people to get in contact with your enterprise SaaS or B2B product? Going onto it as well, we can see, I looked at one of their emails, and their emails are really nice in the fact that they do a couple of follow-ups, and when they don't, they just refer you off to their email newsletter. So it keeps you in the loop, gives you a softer call to action to make sure that you're not going to be completely off the radar for stuff that they launch and information in the future. So they're creating this sort of database and audience of people in which they're using their content machine just to pump things out on an ongoing basis, and it's really great stuff. So that's very top line from a paid media side of things. I think it's quite creative. I think it goes to show that consistency and information in fast-growing companies is much better than high production value and less frequency, because there's a lot of people that do animated explainers a lot of the time, and it's their sole purpose, and they're great, and they fit within a certain area of marketing and certain promotion of certain elements of your product and your product loop, but they don't necessarily hit all the demands that people need to get that deep insight into your company and your opinions and your angles on things. So let's go on to the SEO, and I believe this is really where Cognizam have done a great job, and I know they've done a great job because in lots of B2B companies, especially in software, people will look just to rank for stuff that isn't that relevant to their customers but kind of sits in the industry, and they follow the keyword volumes, whereas what we can see here is them ranking for so many terms which are along the lines of go-to-market strategy, a very key query when it comes to people looking to launch or go-to-market or market their software products. So they're obviously appearing for this high-volume search, highly relevant. Probably a lot of it's going to be, definition-based and top funnel-based, but there's going to be a large amount of people lower down the funnel. And what's really nice is they do content marketing. They don't necessarily worry about going after the software terms, which I'll get on into a second, but they go after identifying what people are trying to do and working out how their software plugs the gap, and creating these pillar pieces of content which go through exactly what our go-to-market strategy is. And then, if I imagine, they're going to tell you, Cognizam, for this, Cognizam 25%, at Cognizam we bake our £30 worst case scenario, so still use case of how they use it, so proofs in the pudding there. You can see they mentioned Cognizam 39 times, aside from Cognizam's company like ZoomInfo, Lusher. It's kind of taking you through this process, positioning themselves as thought leaders, and then applying how they've used it, and then applying how you can use their platform or other platforms, and being transparent to go into it. But you can see I'm only on number 7 of 39. So you can see, here we go, a whole audit of their sort of platform, well, not audit, but overview. Diamond Data is their product. It goes in and it's an educational piece, and it's a way of creating demand through search marketing and how SEO should be done. And we can see B2B lead generation, outbound lead gen, B2B prospecting, TAM, target audit market, and how to calculate it. Again, great stuff, top of funnel. But it's also then tying into their paid media machine of all these people are sort of looking for this content. They're getting high search rates, good click-through rates, good consumption rates. I imagine they're not looking at conversion rates through a blog all the time. They probably have like a point percentage, a 0 point something percentage of direct conversions. I'd love to know the close rate off a first touch point. But I imagine where the real stuff comes through is from the paid remarketing and actually then drawing them into the stories, getting them to listen to their podcasts, getting them on the side and the way in which they do marketing. So it's quite cool here, and yeah, there's lots of different pieces of content they do here, and it's all great stuff. And most of it's the informative bits and then educating, which is how it should be done a lot of time in the software space. Again, you can go after software terms, which they do. The issue with software, as you can see here, B2B prospecting software, great, they're number one. But the issue is that there's only 80 people a month in the US which are looking for this software. They probably have a brand in mind, like Zoom for whatever it is. So this would be, again, a good touch point, but if you're just focusing on software terms, it's going to be hard to scale up and see an immediate impact, even if you are ranking number one on the throughput of leads, which then turn into revenue. Again, it's really nice, but if you start doing the content marketing properly and acquiring your links and getting good engagement, then you'll start ranking for these software terms anyway. But interestingly, what we've seen, if we look at this in the SERP, we found that these guys, again, obviously Cognizam peer here, prospecting, best in EMEA, I imagine there's lots of different ads here. I won't click on this to save them money, but I think they do use landing pages, which is cool, which I won't go too much into this video. But again, they really understand intent of search. And this is something in software which is very key because they have the 17th best B2B prospecting tools for 2022. And they've found out that Google won't promote a software page, but they will promote an aggregate page, even one that's comes from a brand, because you've got lead feeder, error lead, swordfish, and they're all like people consuming, and it's coming from that G2 crowd era where a lot of the time to rank for software related terms, you have to be a brand and put yourself as number one on the list, of course, but then also give an honest review of other ones, which I'm not sure how long that's going to be something that Google serves, because obviously there is a bias behind this, but interesting to see. And obviously the intent seems like it's correct for Google serving at the moment, but I'll be interested to see how that changes. From let's give an example of one which people technically do quite bad. So top pages. So these guys do it really well, and we can see here they're obviously pages are going up, so they've got about 200 new pages indexed in the last 6 months or so. So creating at a good level, obviously go-to-market strategy, revenue generation, revenue ops, all these great stuff here. All of this stuff's good. Here we go. This is the sort of thing that you talk about where, obviously, zoom in for alternatives, classic software stuff. But email signature quotations. This is where I mean that it fits into a larger part of the strategy, but all in all, they could probably do without creating this stuff. And a lot of companies in software who just looking to chase the numbers will go after these uncompetitive terms and create things around email signatures, even though they don't sell that or it doesn't relate to their product. Or they'll go and they'll create things around master's email signature. Let's go to the next page. Trying to find a better example of what I'm talking about. Seamless AI alternative. It's actually quite hard to find with these guys because they've done a very good job. CEO email signature. That stuff around ghosted meme, again, low search volume, but 1.2k search volume. If they were ranking page one, they'll get a lot of stuff through this. So, you'd see a lot of this stuff where in this context it's fine because it's the lesser, but in a lot of companies, people who run restaurant software apps will try and rank for, like, example restaurant menus, which necessarily won't be the thing that's going to plug their software. May not be the best example, but don't go after the high lead numbers unless there's a direct application of how you can educate people on how your software fits in with that buying journey, is what I'm slowly getting around to articulating. Now, let's look at the best by links. The one thing I think that they've done well, obviously, is creating content. One thing that I think they could definitely do better would be the amplification of this content. By that, I mean these guys have B2B lead generation or the 8 stages of the B2B buying process. I mean, we've ranked clients for this in the UK in the marketing automation space, and by doing just a bit of outreach, we already got more than 54 do follow links. So we know that this sort of content does really well, and I imagine most of this stuff is acquired organically. So by actually creating certain outreach pieces which can relate to this, doing a bit of reactive bits with journalists, maybe setting up with more stat-led content which allows us to acquire links more passively as well. Lots of different areas in which they can look to really hyper grow their link portfolio to start ranking, not just top 8 for go-to-market strategy, but sort of getting in that top 3 and using these different creative concepts to allow them to do that to outreach. So it's one of the things, but apart from that, I mean, all of this stuff here is all part of the engine they've built to be able to grow a very successful company on the back of marketing, a marketing-led company, growing off the back of marketing and sales in itself. I know they did a lot of stuff around, from listening just to a podcast before, around IP tracking of target accounts, and when they turn up, then becoming a priority for their sales team. But all of this stuff feeds into their credibility, into practicing what they preach and positioning themselves as authoritative in the space. And just really, when someone then comes to sell or gets a cold outreach piece, I think I got a direct email from one of them, one of their sales team, I was much more likely to listen than if it was just a complete cold email. Because what I imagine they've done from an email perspective is created audiences within LinkedIn of anyone who's engaged with their content. And then once they've done that, they then put that in a campaign and then automatically via proxy send an email, which works really nicely for software. So that's pretty much a 15-minute overview of what I think Cognizam do well on this week on SaaS Crunch. Any questions, feel free to just whack them in the comments. But I'll speak to you soon. Have a good week.